It's been 8 months now since George Floyd's death in police custody ignited nationwide calls to defund police departments. And in Minneapolis, the epicenter of those protests, the city council vowed to, quote, dismantle their police department. And here's what happened. 11% jump in violent crime and a 33% increase in the numbers of deaths by homicide over the course of this past year. And now city council members are pitching a plan to replace their police department entirely with a public safety department. Joining me now is Andy No, editor-at-large at the Post-Millennial and the journalist who has spent years, often undercover, documenting the rise of Antifa in Portland, Oregon, which was his hometown, and watched it spread throughout other parts of the country. He's also the author of the brand new book out yesterday, I believe. It is called Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. It is a book that Antifa is now trying to get banned here in the United States. Andy, thank you very much for being here, and congratulations on your new book. You know, one of the saddest things about your situation is that you came to this country, your family's from Vietnam, you're a first-generation American, and now, because of the work that you've done uncovering this group, you've had to leave your new country of America and move to Canada. Why?
So I'm actually currently in the UK, and so the consequences of BLM Antifa's hatred of police, I personally feel, because the law enforcement in Portland, Oregon, my home city, were made entirely feckless. So ever since they beat me in 2019, gave me brain hemorrhage, nobody was arrested. They beat other people. They threw out riots last year that lasted months on end. Every night, they set fires to buildings. They actually killed somebody. Out of that, 90% of the arrestees had their charges dropped. So they're creating, intentionally, by demonizing police and getting their budget slashed and getting officers to resign, it's so that there's a power vacuum so that they can step in and essentially replace the police with their own security forces, as they did in Chaz last year in Seattle when they sieged territory near downtown Seattle. And as I witnessed myself when I was there undercover, these anarchy zones where they have their own security who are carrying guns and other weapons openly, it devolves into areas where there are attempted rapes, there are shootings, and there are multiple murders.
So you, as you said, went undercover, covered these groups, and your argument is that it's working. You know, it might be very slowly and incrementally, but we've seen what's been going on in Portland just over the past several weeks. It's happening all over again, and they are anti-Trump, they're anti-Biden. But nobody is willing to really crack down on them. So how are they, based on your work inside the group, how are they looking to expand this movement across the country?
Well, they're expanded at an exceptional pace ever since 2016 because the liberal establishment, and by that I include legacy media journalists, as well as Democrat politicians, basically created an informal alliance with them because of their shared hatred in the former administration. And so for years, we saw this coddling and turning of a blind eye to these domestic terrorists called Antifa because they do it under the banner of anti-fascism, anti-racism. What I was witnessing is they were calling for political assassinations. And so right in my book, I received some primary documents of how Rossi, the Antifa radicalized their members. They introduced them to incremental extremist literature to get them to, and also train them how to use weapons, get them to a point where they're essentially willing to kill and be killed for their cause. So this has been happening with the blessing of the mainstream left. And it really pains me because, like I said, I'm not the only one who's just been personally victimized by it. There's been countless of other people. Law enforcement have been injured. And now those Democrat politicians like Mayor Ted Wheeler, he's been assaulted and literally chased out of his home. These beasts that they've been feeding is too big to slay.
I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. Canada is now considering the Proud Boys. They've labeled them a terror organization. You've covered the alt-right as well in your work. Do you agree with that designation?
No, I don't. And I think there's lots of criticisms about the political brawls that Proud Boys members are involved in, but labeling them a terrorist organization doesn't make sense. I think it's political theater. If they're going to label that a terrorist group and the Proud Boys haven't killed anybody, or they don't launch terrorist attacks, it's just a
what about
farce.
their potential role in the January 6th situation? 5 people died there.
That's a good point. So that remains to be seen. That's under investigation. But I mean, Canada should make this determination after the American authorities are carried out and finish their investigations.
Okay. Andy, no, great to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Good luck with the book. It's called Unmasked.